John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
This week, the World Health Organization announced it will use the European Union's digital vaccine certification model as a global digital health certification network framework. Now, what this does is this brings the concept of a global vaccine passport much closer to reality. Now, the member nations of the World Health Organization, they just met, and they didn't vote on this. But that didn't stop these unelected bureaucrats at the WHO from moving forward with their power grab. Now, where could this lead? Well, I tell you, it could lead to a very bad outcome. Joining me now to discuss this is former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. She has just returned, actually, from Geneva, where she attended the 76th World Health Assembly, where the WHO met. She served in Congress for 8 years, is now the dean of the Robertson School of Government at Regent University. During her time in Congress, she served on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Dean Bachmann, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Tony, good to see you too.
Now, you were recently in Geneva, as I mentioned, for the World Health Assembly, but this global health certification network was not voted on or announced. So what's this all about?
No, you're right. It was discussed prior to the meeting that we just had for 7 days in Geneva, but they did not vote on it. As a matter of fact, there were 307 amendments that were introduced to the international health rules together with the Global Pandemic Treaty. The expectation is those two documents will be merged and synthesized, and 1 year from now, that will be either voted on or without dissent, it will just be adopted by the World Health Assembly. What does this mean? It means the creation of a platform that would envision all nations, all 194 member nations of the WHO, to yield their decision-making authority over healthcare to the WHO. That's profound. And so this didn't happen with the creation of the digital health certificate at the WHO. They just took it. And I was stunned, like you said. This is the most unbelievable power grab because, Tony, this digital certification will ultimately be used as the enforcement mechanism for this global control over all nations regarding healthcare and many other issues as well.
I mean, this will have the record, your health record, vaccine record of all vaccinations, and this is what we saw being, bounced around during COVID about a vaccine passport. This would be essentially, I guess, if it would be in your smartphone or device. You would have to have something like this in order to travel.
That's right. It's a global digital ID. Take a look at your cell phone. A QR code would be on this, only it's managed by the World Health Organization, the organization that tragically got it more wrong than any other nation during the global pandemic. But now they would be the ones who are in charge of administering this QR code, but they would also set the requirements that we have to meet, whether it's mandating vaccines, mandating boosters, mandating mask wearing, mandating lockdowns, mandating church closures. They would have the say on everything, and our cell phone would tell the story if we are in compliance or not. That's very similar to the social credit system that communist China uses and imposes on their own people. That's what this system envisions. And it's far more than just the vaccine. Ultimately, they envision a cashless society where our money would be converged. And as you said, it's a travel locator number that we have. We could not get on a plane or a public conveyance of any kind unless we are in conformity with what the WHO says.
Now, Michelle, this is so far-reaching that it sounds like one of those conspiracy theories that you dig up off the internet somewhere. But this is literally happening. They announced it. I played a clip of Tedros saying this yesterday at the signing ceremony. They are doing this in the European Union. And as I understand it, this is establishing the framework that then can go global.
That's right. And realize this covers 80 nations. And they also said that the initiation date is June of 2023. That's now. So this global vaccine passport is already live. It's already being administered by the WHO, and it already impacts 80 European nations who are in this net. We know from the amendments to the international health rules and the global pandemic treaty that the WHO envisions that all 194 nations will be a part of this global vaccine passport, where they tell us what we have to do and they administer and they regulate our movements. This is tracking, tracing, surveillance virtually of every person on Earth, and it creates that platform for global governance, which has never happened before in history. So it's a very serious thing that they're doing. They didn't ask permission. They didn't get a vote. They just took the power. But here's the biggest question, Tony. The biggest question is, will the United States of America go into this system? And if so, when? And that's why I say it's time for U.S. senators to wake up and start asking questions, and members of the House. And they need to deliver the message in no uncertain terms to the Biden administration. The United States will not go into this system. United States-based corporations will not go into this system. And no customer of any business should ever be punished for not going into this system.
Hey guys, welcome. Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing with you once more. Seven of Truth too as well. Thank you for finding me, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope this finds you well. It's my Friday the 18th of August 2023, and I've been in the background a bit, keeping to myself, exploring a lot, contemplating a lot, being busy as well in the other things I do, so I haven't really wanted to be out there too much. This is a couple of weeks after I did the earth pranic healing. I did that quite late on a Thursday. I forget the exact date. I think it was the 4th now, so it's a couple of weeks ago. And I'd done pranic healing on myself, and I was like, I'm not clear here. And then I worked out, oh shit, it's actually Earth itself that's messed up, that's messing us up. So then I did it. And the last one I did was early February. And it's significant that I identify the dates for you, because late February there was a violation of me, and it's been a bit of a consistent theme with me for a long time, and I'm gonna try and bite my tongue, so to speak, and on many things, but I've got a lot to say, and I can already feel a lot in my body. So yeah, I'm always very conservative on doing sort of earth work and stuff if I'm not clear enough and feeling up to it, or taking the highest level of responsibility in myself for doing things like that. But it was very interesting. I really got the urge to get on with it and do it and flip everything, because I said I wasn't going to do any more, because honestly I know that people overlay themselves and get healed and stuff like that, but I'm in new territory, if you get my drift, because I've worked a lot out. And I've worked a lot out, not just for me, but like you might think that I'm talking about myself in these videos and stuff, but I'm using me as a variable to decode and decrypt and reverse engineer all the mechanics of stuff going on. So I include me so you can do a reference of me and my experiences of the mechanics of how I do it. So those of you with pretty epic freaking pattern recognition skills, you can employ them yourself and use me as a sort of reference of how I do it and all that. But I definitely don't allow hacking in, alright? So if you try and violate me, you better watch out, alright? Because I'm on it big time now. So yeah, just why I'm bringing up that earth pranic healing is because I've got some real phenomenal allies behind the scenes, alright? And I allude to people, but because when I offer references of where I come to understandings from, I'm not here to put it out there that everything comes from me. I know, and I've been around people that I've done a lot for, and they claim credit for things and stuff. I'm never here to claim credit for anything that's not mine. So a lot of the things that I sort of offer are for that string for you to understand that some things aren't coming from me. So, but again, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I might be putting people on the radar and all that, and it did happen. And yeah, but so say someone gave me feedback of that pranic healing I did of the planet, and what they told me was I actually freed the elementals. The elementals were trapped, okay? So whatever things are being said out there, that they're not the case, alright? The other things with the earth pranic healing, I'll just get to this and get this done, so I'll use this as a teaching. They also told me that the ability for animal communication is enabled now. It was not totally, but it was very hindered or shut down and stuff like that. They also told me that there's massive crystals under the Earth's surface and stuff that are actually engaged and activated and stuff, right? So what I do is I allow me to be a reference for people to train their abilities, because a lot of people don't actually know the extent of their talents and stuff. So I just got someone to tune in. They were like, wow, oh, I can see, oh, wow, if you get my drift. So yeah, so the reason why I'm saying this is that there's been a lot said in the past that isn't actually true, okay? And in actual fact, the reverse matrix has been done, okay? So if I show you an image, this is the contrarian view sort of image that I've shown many times, and I've talked about this relative to money trading and stuff, where the herd follows the wrong path sort of thing, and you have to be a contrarian to go against the herd sort of thing. So what I'm offering this is the reverse matrix, is do it with me first, take what I say, and go the opposite, alright? See, and tune into that, whether I've been telling you bullshit, okay, which is the opposite of what's being said, okay. So, say for one instance, if I have the ability to tap into cacheable shitter records, if I say I'm using them or I'm not using them, if you get my drift, if I'm calling them out of as a cacheable shitter, but then in private sessions with you, I'm employing them to read into, because you've dropped your guard thinking that I don't use them, when in actual fact I'm actually using them. So that obfuscation, if you get my drift, is a relevant reference for the contrarian view, if you like, alright? So say if I'm saying I'm going to step in and protect your children and stuff, or you need protection because you're frail and weak and you're not up to protecting yourself, so I'll protect you, alright? When in actual fact you're opening the door for hacking and all that sort of stuff, right? So what I'm really highly encouraging everyone here to do that might be listening to this is to actually reverse matrix everything I've said, but do it to everyone you've ever dealt with, alright? And see what reactions you get. Just observe your life. Has your life gotten better, or has chaos gone off the charts? I did Echoes Part 6, which was the Discord, alright? And Chaos 19, okay? So just measure in your life, has it gotten better over the last couple of years, or even many years before that, alright? So if I've been a part of it, but I'm offering it, do it for everyone, alright? Because chaos is an energetic benefit, and I know people's crown chakras have been hacked to leave them vulnerable to influence and puppeting and all sorts of shit, and kids are being gone after and all that, like the next generation are being set up, alright? So explore the contrarian view, okay? So you know how I usually call myself Maximus Bratius? Well, I'm going to call myself Don Bratos, because I got to potentially make an offer too good to refuse, like Don Brato. So what I'm aiming to do is offer a lot of influences. So if I don't get to that offer, if that makes sense, because it's going to be quite interesting, because I have been testing the water for doing some big chess moves for a while, long while, like despite all the frackery gone on. Like I said, late February I got hacked, I got violated and tried to derail, alright? And it was publicly said that my life was at risk, blah blah blah. But what is said in public versus the strategy on the multi-dimensional is far different, alright? So, like I've talked about, you can't give benefit of the doubt, alright, to the highly aware, okay? So, March 14th was someone we engaged a 12D grid on the planet despite all this. And so, with a lot of the components relative to the conscious Tetris, alright? So if I show you that image quick. So ideally we go from the right side to the left, where we work out bad variables and flip them to make them better variables. Well, this can be reversed as well. So you can be on it and shit can be inserted to you via people out there, because there's just a level game going on, and I'll just get to that, right? And offer that, okay? So you might be on it and then you get derailed, sort of thing, alright? So there's efforts to hijack and prevent things to keep you, say, below 12D when people aren't where they say they are at, alright? Okay? So I'm just doing some very general sort of stuff to give you the reference of mechanics of you relative to what's been going on, because there's been a very freaking masterful game going on. And yeah, that's why I'm going to go call this big chess move time, alright? Maybe it's Galactic Special Forces 27, I think. So August 18th, 2023, okay? Because there's a lot going on, alright? And thanks to the people in the last month or so, I've gotten a lot more data and context of things, alright? And I'm going to be very perhaps vague in certain respects, because I'll build upon it in the future, okay? But what I've worked out, I'm going to give the framework of things so you can actually see it yourself, because a lot of people have actually had experiences and stuff. So I think this video in itself will be a great teaching in influences and conscious Tetris, but I am brewing to do something unique, something I wouldn't normally do, and in a way I normally don't do it, which is exactly why it should be done. Unpredictable and all that sort of stuff, right? Because I actually let the cat out of the bag with a couple of people and it's all cool, but I was just testing the water of the pushback, if you get my drift, and I got a fair bit, so that's why I'm sort of doing this now, because who knows what's going to happen. And I've got a busy time coming up, so I may not be doing a lot of videos and stuff, right? So I'll just move on. This first section I want to give a decent section of sort of the infrastructure and play that we've been up against, alright? And I don't know if you've seen the movie Heart of Stone. It came out, it was a Netflix movie, it came out last weekend. It was very interesting because it sort of triggered me a lot. And there's this Swedish, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm aiming to probably give you about half-hour section of clips together to offer just a metaphor of, say, the pattern recognition that's being used against us. So, you know, there's all crazy shit going on around us and it doesn't add up. I think there's many patterns at play, alright? And so the aim of these videos will be aiming for the reality, like the 3D 5 sense sort of reality aspects, but I'm more so for the multi-dimensional, super psychic, sort of going back to the Ayani massacre and the Leviathan Force that have set up this stuff for 25,000 years that most people wouldn't even, it's too risky to sort of say, because if you go back to Echoes Part 3, I talked about the sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, alright? Sympathetic resonance to the falsehood. After the Babylon massacre, from my perspective, they inserted all this shit into our DNA and our memories and all this sort of stuff that made us gravitate to the falsehood teachers and to set us up for now, because they actually need us to co-create with it. They need our energy and our willpower and our, you know, our desire for things to be what we want them to be, sort of thing, rather than how it is, alright? And accepting it is this freaking crazy, alright? So you discern me all you want and discern all this, and it's just like, yeah, that Aussie brat, Don Brado, he's off his tree again, alright? That's cool. But maybe I'm out there in front and I've already gotten all this and just laying the seed work for the potential for people to go through their experience and get their own reference, and it's like, yes, I see it now. Because experience is the key to wisdom, alright? And that's why I say, like, 2013 I was doing GSF sort of stuff, right? I was brewing for that level 10 years ago. So I mentioned the words battle hardened, alright? Because this recent time has been freaking profound at the level of mastery of frackery that's been going on, alright? So, but Mars is over my right shoulder, alright? So he's on it, and he's my bodyguard, so I inspire you to engage with Mars and see how you feel, and invite him to be a part of your spiritual entourage, as I said in that recent video, the Earth Pranic Healing, which was a bit of a quick sort of insert to show I'm freaking better than ever, right? So all this shit is, as I said, GH2 deja vu. It's only, from my perspective, made it more obvious of what's going on, and I've gained a lot of data, and again, thanks to all you people that I've had interactions with, you've helped as well, alright? Probably in the intro, I don't know if I'm going to show the Jim Carrey psychic phenomena video. Like this might be quite long, but it's just an opportunity to laugh at the shit going on and stuff. But I'm intending to include a clip from The Last of Us. There's this game called The Last of Us, and it's about a Armageddon scenario where, in a different way, it's about a fungus that brings like hijacks people and brings down society sort of stuff. So there was a series that came out earlier this year, and in there was a very interesting clip. So I included a clip with that, how the network of this stuff interacts. So it's all like one big organism that's going after the uncorrupted humanity and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting clip that I'll employ after, because what I want to do is do the 3D 5 sense reality sort of stuff that I said in those clips, and then after I'll talk more, because I'll talk more about the multidimensional intuitive community and take it a bit further. So I'm still working on, I haven't done videos and I don't know when I'll get this out, and I'm still working through to find the actual clip. So I don't know how long this section might be, but it might be 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll include some clips from Heart of Stone, which are really awesome visual representations of this. And then there's, because it's all about the transhuman digital sort of control of the internet sort of thing that's going on, right? And this Swedish guy is awesome, and I've included him about the Wefers sort of lecture that he did early on, and I'll aim to include a couple of links with his lectures. He's someone worth following. He's actually a professor, or like a teacher in a university in Sweden, that's talking all about this stuff. And yeah, he released a new video on his channel all about the digital era, sort of what's coming on. So there's always been, like, say I'm a battle-hardened veteran of the spiritual multi-dimensional battlefield, so to speak, because it's a fucking battlefield, alright? Pardon my language, it's a battlefield. So there's always been this kumbaya shit, you know? Something's going to save us and we don't have to do shit, be apathetic, blah, blah, blah. Don't do anything, like, don't do anything. Just sit back and we'll take care of it. You don't have to be or contribute. And some future carrot that's always gonna never happen, like a mirage on a horizon, if you get my drift. So that kumbaya spirituality, I'll just call mine, it's Crocodile Dillygaff Dundee spirituality. Because I'm in FTS mode, like fuck this shit mode, okay? Because I will offer, this is what I worked out that's going on, thanks to all this recent timing and stuff, and what I've been through, say, the last couple of years, and just seeing the chaos in people's lives, that, and the crown chakras that are hacked, and the children gone after, like they're literally planning to get to your next generations, alright? So what I'm going to do is get into, with this intro, and there's a lot I haven't said, and there's a lot I'll explore and go into deeper about what I've said, but I'm ideally hoping that you're able to sense my frequency shift and where I'm at and where I'm better than ever before, so to speak, and how I feel. Like, I feel like I've literally gotten rid of a giant species. Go watch Species 1, alright? A species elephant off my back, hacking into me and all that sort of shit, right? So this where I'm at now, I'm gonna offer, and I don't make an accident of the Species movie. I'm freaking sick of dealing with insectoid freaking queens, alright? And all the frackery of all the false, like the negative species and all that sort of shit, alright? Because I seem to be a shit fucking magnet of all that crap, and I'll extrapolate on that with images and stuff later. But this first section, I want to get into a bit of the reality narrative sort of stuff, and it's a very advanced level in the narrative. So if you know that image that I have with all the sub-narratives and stuff, it's probably going down to the 3rd level, alright? But I will also offer, from my perspective going back, I've always said that what's going on here on Earth is like a satellite, like a remote office where the main shit's going on in Nibiru, alright? So, or just take that metaphor of the control is somewhere else, and we're just like a outpost, if you will. So again, this first part is like more into the narrative of the reality of how the reality is controlled and all that sort of stuff. But what I want to do is expand upon that and include the multidimensional, which I've offered many paces of the spiritual community and stuff as tied to that, but tied to this bigger 25,000 years Leviathan force, the stuff that Asha sort of says. And what I was saying before is that the sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, it's just data, right? So if you find you polarize the people and stuff, perhaps you've got shit in you from that is polarizing you against stuff. And maybe it's not, right? Maybe you're accurate. Maybe it is false or stuff. But like I'm suggesting in the contrarian view, flip everything. What if your wiring is incorrect and it is confirmation, right? Or what you think is confirmation should actually be a block, all right? So just think about those sort of things. So as I said, I don't know what clips I'm going to include. It might be 20 to 30 minutes. But the idea is to get you to realize like the reality control and the predictability, and then if they're predicting stuff, then what chaos programs are they offering us and stuff, let alone the expansion of the spiritual community in it. So we'll see how we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this and get a lot from this, and I'll see you on the other side, all right?
Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, it's working. Fantastic. My talk is called Shapers of the Future, the Digital World Brain. I will go through the idea to create an organ to manage global challenges, a world brain, and how this has become a part of the United Nations' current efforts to upgrade the multilateral system, what they refer to as our common agenda. This grand project, however, risks developing into a global technocratic dictatorship. This is my books, Rockefeller, that's about the climate agenda, the background to how the climate agenda evolved, and the global coup d'etat, that's about the background to the pandemic, on the pandemic side, and my latest book, The Digital World Brain, and that is the talk that I'm going to give, more or less about the digital world brain. The shapers. Who have shaped this agenda? This is a quote by Zbigniew Brzezinski. He said this in 1970. Power will gravitate into those who control information and can correlate it most rapidly. Our existing post-crisis management institutions will probably be supplemented by pre-crisis management institutions, the task of which will be to identify in advance likely social crises and to develop programs to cope with them. This could encourage tendencies during the next several decades toward a technocratic dictatorship, leaving less and less room for political procedures as we now know them. One can say about Zbigniew Brzezinski that he was a kind of a futurist or a futurologist. Those are people that are whose specialty or interest is futurology, or the attempt to systematically explore predictions and possibilities about the future. And in 1975, World Future Society had a meeting in Washington, where we discussed how can we do this? How can we create and influence opinion and everything? So we will get to the society we want to achieve. And this is Warren Wager. He said, there is no better time to implement radical changes than after a worldwide catastrophe. That's the thinking. Erwin Laszlo, a member of the Club of Rome and a member of the World Future Society, presented this project, Goals for Mankind, a Club of Rome project. In this report, they have defined through computer modeling that the resultant ideal sustainable population is hence more than 500 million but less than 1 billion people in the world. And this has been repeated a lot of times. And this is, of course, yeah, Gro Harlem, Brundtland. The Brundtland Commission, one of the most important reports ever written about, and that's the futuristic agenda. That's the scientific agenda. That's how to create this future technocracy. That's in our common future. And they always state this. It's common, together, the world organism. Gro Harlem Brundtland, together with Maurice Strong. They were both members also of the Trilateral Commission. They were Rockefeller's elite organization. Very influential report that led to this Agenda 21 in 1992, and with Maurice Strong at the helm again, and they stated, in our hands. We always say that like this, in our hands. We want the world in our hands. Is it the dove or is it the hand that takes the globe? And how to change the world. So they gave advice. And these reports are used by the United Nations Environment Programme. We have to create a global citizens movement that can create an alternative vision and effective strategy for realizing it. Conscious action must rise to the level of a global citizens movement. I don't know if you think of someone. Any name? A little Swedish girl, maybe? Greta. So that's one of the ways. The other way, triggers for transformation. This is from a follow-up report. We can't achieve this only with just movements that we create. Another path to general crisis might be initiated by an unprecedented pandemic, perhaps via an extremely contagious disease vector. And that's just one of them. This was written in 2006. But this report was built on some premises. It was about how can we implement new technology, because this future utopia will be run with high tech. So they predicted a lot of new technology that would come, that was mature at that time. But people hadn't accepted it, so how do we get people to accept this new tech? So it was based on this work. The common agenda. In 2012, the future we want, it was stated. By whom? Not by us, I think. But some people wanted a future, and some of them, you can see here, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, they actually was behind this slogan, the future. we want. So they furthered the agenda, and they decided that because of the bad feeling we had from these doomsday scenarios, how all the world will just collapse and everything would be awful, we had to paint it in a better way. So that's where we get the Agenda 2030. That looks very good if you look on the surface, but not if you look inside. Because this is what's inside, of course. Klaus Schwab and his book. It came just some months after this Agenda 2030 in late 2015 and presented at the World Economic Forum meeting in 2016. And yeah, this is a new futuristic manifesto, I would say. The idea of reshaping humanity and the planet with increased digital technology, reshaping the physical world, altering the human. I remember reading that at that time and I asked, what are they saying? It looked like a Nazi propaganda book or something like that. And last, integrating the environment. And everything is about technology. And behind this panel, we also find the Global Challenge Foundation with Swede Johan Rockström, stating what we have to govern our climate future better. And in 2024, we will have a meeting called Summit of the Future, that we will decide this new agenda. It's a pact for the future, and they will adapt tools for better to cope with pandemic disease, runaway climate change, violence in fragile states, economic shocks, and cyber attacks. And they will have a declaration for future generations, because they don't count on the current generations. The current generations are a problem. So, recognizing that we are in an era of existential threats with intergenerational consequences. And they also will have an envoy for future generations, because we are the generation that destroy. And they want to an envoy for future generations, and they have talked about making it an artificial intelligence that decides for the future. They also have something called the Global Digital Interdependence, a Global Digital Compact. That's a major part of this agenda. Everything digitized, everything is about data, collecting data from everyone. We took help from Melinda Gates and Jack Ma from the Alibaba Group. That's the ones that created the social credit system, China. And digital ID, of course, a system that won't allow us to do anything without have this ID. Restrictions everywhere if we don't follow. And space is a big part of this agenda. Global satellite monitoring of the whole Earth system. This is the satellite temple. And we also have the idea of creating a futures lab where we want to filtrate all data in this system in order to predict human behavior patterns and climate risk. That's the things we want to do. We talk about creating a digital replica of our planet. So they can monitor, understand, simulate, and anticipate future events. So that's why we need to digitize it. And also this control of information, the Ministry of Truth. And they state here, the ability to cause large-scale disinformation and undermine scientifically established facts is an existential risk to humanity. and that we own the science. Melissa Fleming from United Nations said this. And we know what science this is. This is climate science, and this is health science. Influencing behavior. We have this idea to influence how can we, through sludging and nudging, influence people to think better. And we're going to release a global catastrophic risks report every 5 years to see what will happen next. What kind of future complex shocks can we see in the future? Climate events, future pandemics, event involving biological agents, and things like that. Unforeseen black swan event. As Klaus Schwab said, there will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way. But, and now I will end this, it's all about technology, of course, and the scientific management of a planet to lead us to this zero carbon future. Schwab has said, who master those technologies in some way will be the master of the world. And this is where we could be heading if these people get their way into a singleton, a single decision-making agency at the highest level. Once formed, a future singleton might be perpetually stable. This could happen if surveillance, mind control, and other security technologies develop in such a way to enable a singleton effectively prevent the emergence of internal challenges. All we have to do is declare the planetary emergency. The doomsday clock is very close. And this is from the Great Transition. As they declare the planetary emergency, using a revamped United Nations as their platform, a state of planetary emergency is declared. A campaign of overwhelming force, rough justice, and draconian police measures sweeps through hotspots and conflict and discontent. We can hope, but we don't get this future. And I don't think they will succeed. This is their idea of a digital world brain. You can read all about it in my book. But I don't think they will succeed because they don't work with truth. They work with lies. And truth always wins in the end. Thank you.
Mulvaney? Oh. Well, he was tech-averse like me. Kept everything up here. So, Kea and I set up our casino of blood to lure him in. We needed to have a little chat about the heart.
Okay.
Talk.
The heart is what gives the Charter its power. It's the most formidable weapon you never knew existed. Can hack into anything, anywhere. Cell phones, power grids, the banks, governments, military, your health records, your secrets. It knows you better than you know yourself. It's determinism. With access to trillions of data points at once, its modeling is so accurate, it can predict the future. The heart is knowledge and power. It can crash a market or drop a plane out of the sky. Who needs to steal a nuclear bomb when you can control them all? If you own the heart, you own the world.
This is Project Camelot, and my name is Bill Ryan, with my partner Kerry Cassidy. And we're bookending here right between us. We've got Dr. Bill Deagle, and it's a tremendous privilege to be with you.
Yes, thanks very much.
I just joked with Dr. Bill just now that I'm claiming a Guinness record for having listened to the Granada Forum lecture all the way through 7 times, which I had to do because there's so much data in there. And not only that, in a phone call just a few days ago, Dr. Bill told us that he'd probably only presented about 10% of the information which he has to offer. And one of the things which we hope to do in the next couple of hours is to see whether we can get on record as much of the remaining 90% as possible. And in particular, many of the people viewing this video now, and the two of us, Kerry and myself in particular, are really interested and focused on what is going to be happening in the immediate few weeks and months. And I think one of the phrases that Bill used was the calm before the storm. What's the storm?
Well, there's the best way to think is the Army War College, and if talk to people that work in the Marine Army War College and other places, and what they do is they war game it out. They have people that sit around big boardroom tables, and then what they do is they put it into simulation computers. They use Simula, PL1, and other languages that were actually developed for the military, and then they put it on their own supercomputers, and then they run through a number of simulations. So every war, every conflict, every national emergency has already been scenarioed out. People don't realize just how much computing power has been put into these things, for everything from, you know, ET invasions to a tsunami hitting the west coast, to the Cumbra Viejo, to a civil disruption because of an earthquake in the New Madrid Fault in the Midwest. So basically everything's been simulated. What I try to do in my show is I realized that one of the things about having a regular radio show is you can bring in all these experts and guests, but there's several ways of approaching it. My approach has been to try that if they listen to enough shows, that people will start to see a montage of images that'll change their paradigm. Because you can't change people by necessarily beating them over the head with the facts if they emotionally aren't ready for that. And you also have to change their paradigm by what I call by the little grades that happen as they listen to more and more people, and they are willing to accept one message from one type of person, or one way of doing it, or a little humor, or some music. And eventually they get to the point where they're able to then accept the intellectual truths, the spiritual truths, and so on. The two key things that I try to teach in my show are the first thing is that people don't know what they are. People really don't know what kind of a being they are, and because of that, which is in many cases kept purposely away from them, they're manipulated. For example, if you didn't know you were a bird, you'd obviously not try to fly. Right?
Good analogy.
The other thing is I try to teach them is that everything that they have learned in the past has been pre-digested and presented to them, so they really don't understand the nature of the universe they live in. They don't even know what, quote, reality is. And
all this is one of the parameters in the model, presumably, that people are interacting with this stage show with a very limited amount of information at their disposal with which to react and make appropriate judgments.
Right. So what I try to do is I try to stretch them beyond that. And the idea is that eventually you'll get enough evidence and enough logical things that you have what I call the two witnesses. It has to not assault your intellect, the information, and it also has to ring with your spirit.
Good. But you know, a lot of people watching this now have already done that homework. Either by listening to your shows or listening to ours, because we've been operating in exactly the same way, or both. And there's also, would you agree that there's not a lot of time now?
No, there's not a lot of time, and there's a number of what I call spasms of events that are going to happen. And to just give you the timeline of where things are going, rather than giving you specific dates, the first thing is that people need to understand whether we elect McCain, Palin, or Obama, Biden, or the Green Party with McKinney, the events are already in motion to create a regional and world economic catastrophe, and then to create regional and world banks.
So like they've already got the script for the movie, but they haven't got the cast yet.
Right, and they've gone to central casting, and whoever the players are, they're in a sense going to be like riders on the wave of this.
So what's the script?
Well, the script basically is that, and I'll back up a little bit, because...
And also, a few minutes ago you mentioned modeling. It would be great to tie this back into the modeling scenario that you...
Right, they've done lots of modeling. In fact, they have one of the most advanced programs at the University of California in San Francisco, and they're tied directly to the National Reconnaissance Office. This, by the way, I do regularly on my show release classified information. And NRO has access to, you know, the Cray 5s and Cray 4 supercomputers arrays. And so they're able to do simulation.
Located in Denver.
Well, that's where the main node is. It's actually at Schriever Air Force Base, but they also have their systems elsewhere. And people need to know that the world that they believe in is a fairy tale that never existed. Right?
Yep.
So anyway, this is at university level. They have a social modeling supercomputer program. And what they do is they try different perturbations. They'll try a little thing, they'll put a balloon up, put a media event, and they're able to model that based on getting information back. They're able to do specific searches, which are called architectural searches, not all that indifferent from the half-pass human or the Princeton University kind of eggs thing.
Yep.
They're actually mining the internet, they're mining phone conversations, they're mining data from people's cable boxes, which have got two ways so they can know what they're watching, and they have what's called data architecture software that can actually analyze it.
Yep.
But the most important is they just know what they're viewing, and if they know what they're viewing, what the box is turned on to, they can actually put this back into their data. And they can then say, based on area code distribution, demographics, etc., because people need to know that every phone conversation always was monitored. Every fax always was monitored, and they have had supercomputers, and in 2003 they launched what's called the AI system, which is a intelligent supercomputer with the intelligence of a human being, in other words, a smart human being, but able to think 10 trillion times faster, with the access to all known knowledge and history, and a complete access to the internet and all of the communication pathways. So,
okay, with that in mind, the modeling, they are making their plan, their agenda is going to be played out as what, the biggest surprise they can think of?
well, no, what they do is they already have a cybernetic copy of the Earth, and they can actually do models with that and try to do what's called timeline pathway analysis. And
right, but how do they choose? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Part of virtual world with virtual people.
They get a virtual world. I actually took care of employees working on what's called the Sentient World Project in Denver.
Give us some clues, Bill.
We'll give you an example. One of the first things is, by doing this modeling, it means that they don't do it in just a kind of like, in other words, they're not just trying it on the public. They try a different thing. For example, they had the countrywide financial collapse earlier this year, and then they had the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and they try each thing, and they try to see what kind of response they're getting from the public, and they feed back into their model. Now, when I took care of the people that were working on the Sentient World Project, they actually created a cybernetic model of the Earth that's an actual physical model in hyperspace that is down to a tolerance of about 1.5 centimeters. So all the roadways, buildings, everybody inside that model are actually considered called nodes. That's their actual term they use for it. Besides doing the cybernetic computer modeling, they're using other technologies. Some of them are quite alien, if you want to call them.
Okay, I can believe it.
And when they're using these technologies so they can actually analyze timeline pathways.
Okay, but where are they going with this? That's actually what we...
Yeah, where are they going with all this, just to give you an idea? The first thing is you have to look at the menu of what they have, and they try various items, try to perturbate it and then do computer modeling, and then they decide on whether they're going to proceed now or in the near future.
I can believe it.
And when they're using these technologies so they can actually analyze timeline pathways.
Okay, but where are they going with this? That's actually what we...
Yeah, where are they going with all this, just to give you an idea? The first thing is you have to look at the menu of what they have, and they try various items, try to perturbate it and then do computer modeling, and then they decide on whether they're going to proceed now or in the near future. Now, the reason why I bring out that model is they're doing this all the time with their cybernetic models because they're trying to steer society along certain timelines. Right. And they have various forces. All of the people in this quote, you hear the word New World Order, they're not in agreement, and there are various levels, and most of them think that they're at the top of whatever level they're at. And they're really at the bottom of another level. Okay, even the people at the top that are human. Because the New World Order is not being run by humans.
Yes.
Okay?
Exactly.
They need to grasp this. The analogy I use in my show is, in Victorian England, they would, as part of a parlor game, they'd bring you to their gardens, and their gardener would kind of make a little maze, and then you'd go through the little maze and thought you were so quite clever because you get out in a matter of moments. And then what they do is they take you to the big maze, which is done by a very clever gardener, and the only way you could get out is if you were talked out.
Okay.
Okay? If you weren't talked out, you wouldn't make it out of the maze. You'd be stuck there afternoon and would not have tea or anything, right?
Okay.
So the thing was to humiliate you to realize that there's no way you can get out of this big maze unless you changed your paradigm of how to get out of the maze.
Okay,
right?
good. Right.
And what they're doing basically is they're, in a sense, they're sheep dipping the entire society to kind of buy into the lies of what's going on. People don't know what kind of, you know, even modern history has completely been rewritten. Everything that,
but there is some waking up going on.
It's happening
is this
anyway.
Also factoring?
Yes, it is.
It's also being factored in.
Sure it is, and that's why there's been quite delays. In fact, if you look at the published documents like Global 2000 about population reduction, if you look at the planned release of things like avian flu or doing other things, they're way behind schedule. The problem is there's a number of wild cards that they're not in control of.
Which are?
Well, lots of wild cards.
Okay.
The first one is there's a human one. Human beings are a polydimensional being that far transcends what people usually think of as human.
So, but Bill, what I wanted to know is, what are you saying they're going to do with this? Because obviously, if they're behind schedule, and here we are in end of September, and we've got the American economy going in the tank,
right?
And so, what's the next step?
Well, here you got to think about what their goal is, and it's almost like a mouse that reaches certain barriers. A smart mouse, and if you put a barrier down, if the mouse can still smell the cheese, it'll get around that barrier and it'll figure out how to do it. And if it's a very intuitive mouse, it can see beyond the barrier to where the pathway is to get to the cheese. And if it's got lots of access, then it's going to do that, right?
Right.
So where I see it is this: their goal is to have a World Bank. Their goal is to have regionalized currency zones. They published it. In fact, one of the things is you have to understand, which is really bizarre but also true, is that part of the, quote, religion, if you want to call it, or the dogma of the globalists, is to prove that they're a superclass or the predator class or have the right to make these decisions, is they have to publish it, and the profane don't understand it. But it's plainly published. Like, for example, in September of 1973, the Council on Foreign Relations.
It's all in plain sight.
It's all in plain sight. Yeah. In other words, if you want to have
Mountain report, for example.
right, or the 1974 document that talked about the greatest danger to the world is population growth, or the Global 2000. Exactly. It's all in plain sight, and the problem is that people will look and say, well, it can't be true because it's in plain sight. It's almost like if you want to say that it's a battleship, it's well, it's painted pink. It can't be a battleship, and it's got plants coming off all the turrets. Even though it is a battleship and it's in the front yard. What we have to do is use a lot of discernment. There's basically two perspectives in the universe, and this is whether you're human or non-human. What we are, or any other, quote, sentient being in the universe, is a spirit being that's transcending to an energy matrix, creating a reality. Okay, in other words, we're co-creators of our own timeline and future.
Absolutely.
The two perspectives tie in with either being in touch with that higher self, which is the I am, the one that says, let there be light, the spirit that's in us. And there's been in all great spiritual leaders that spoke truth that they knew in their heart, whether it was Buddha or Zoroaster or whatever, all these great leaders have spoken something, and many times it's been converted or perverted or twisted, or they themselves didn't have the whole truth, they just had portions of it, so then it became a religion. So therefore, it's either your will, the will of, in other words, deciding for yourself what is good or evil, or hearing the voice. In other words, you don't need to tell people what's right or wrong. If they're in contact with a higher self and with the creator that created them, they know what's right or wrong.
Okay. Now, just bring that back to where you were when you were talking about the wildcard factors of who people really are. This is my paraphrase of what you were saying there, and how there are certain things that can't be programmed into their supercomputer because actually you're talking about aspects of human beings that are eternal and magical.
Exactly, and that, you see, that point ties in with the factions, if you want to call it. And you can go to all kinds of different religious books, whether it's the Hopi Indians or the Christian Bible or many other books, and they'll tell you that there's been visitations to Earth over all of the ages.
Okay, now...
And the way it ties into this is that some of these visitors have specific characteristics that are very common. For example, the Naga in the area of the Oceania, right? Which are, you know, the serpent people, or the feathered serpent god, or whatever. And what you'll find, or the Dagon, you know, which is the amphibian beings that come from a world, and therefore even a hat, for example, that's on the Pope is actually is called the sign of Dagon, right? Which is the fish god, or Onanes.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Okay.
Which is always in the
now,
background, in other words.
Right now, there'll be people watching this who say, right, I know I'm eternal and magical, and I'm really interested in what you're saying. So what can I do? How can I be? What action can I take to capitalize on my wild card that they may not be able to predict what I'm going to do next?
Well, yeah, what I'm trying to do is get at, you know, I hear lots of different reports that people say, I've been in touch with the Pleiaren or the Andromedans, or I've been in touch with this group or that group. The people need to use extreme discernment.
Yep.
And the way I think about it is this: I say, you know, if you went to a new city, let's say you were from South Africa, and you came to New York City, and you didn't know where to go, but you went to the wrong part of the city, you might not come back out alive.
Right.
Okay? And the similar thing, you have to think of the universe that way too. There's very good places in the universe and very bad.
Yeah.
Okay? And just think of it this way: any being that's capable of leaping across space-time and arriving in our world, you have to assume that their intelligence is limitlessly greater than ours, and therefore anything that they communicate to us could either be very true or very maliciously manipulated to control us.
Exactly.
Almost like a pet. In other words, we would be treated like an ant or a cockroach or like my pet dogs. They would have no way of even understanding what we're talking about, so it would be almost sport.
Yes.
What people need to understand is that there's a vast universe out there. If you just listen to a lot of the scientists, and everybody that's probably listening to this will understand, if you just, you know, they're looking for bacteria on Mars, and they're looking for other evidence that there's even simple life form on Titan and other planets, and planetoids and so on. The fact is, if you just take the minimal number of factors, there's 100 billion stars just in this galaxy, and there's 100 billion galaxies, and that's in the so-called known cosmos, in this known cosmos, which in a sense is probably an elemental particle in a yet larger universe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
The biggest problem I am worried about is that when there's a lack of discernment, there gets to be a mixed message, and so many messages have a lot of noise in them that people won't get a clear understanding of either the opportunities or the dangers of what's going on.
Sure.
Because the problem right now is that there's so much noise, it's discernment to keep them in, quote, Babylon or confusion, so they won't be able to discern, or they'll just dismiss it and they say, look, you people that talk about UFOs are nuts. Okay? If somebody had told me this years ago, I'd say, you're crazy. There's no way, in going through medical school, training, surgery, whatever, I'd say there's no way that could be true. Because my mind is now focused on, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to help people, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm getting access to the totality of human knowledge and science, and I'm going to be able to, some future date, we're going to be able to help cure people of disease and so on. Not knowing that only 4% of information is access to even the university PhD tenured professorial level at the top levels in the world, and the other 96% is by invitation only.
Right.
Right? Or that society, and when you've been invited to enter those realms, then you start to realize, like, my gosh, your whole world is shattered, right? And that's what's disturbing about this, and I'm trying to get the message to the people that the hardest is to argue with people. Like, the world is not based on economy, it's based on, if you want to call it, identity. Okay, and what they're doing is they're homogenizing the identity so they can control the population and turn people into cybernetic robots, is what they want to do.
Absolutely.
And they're literally moving us step by grade into a matrix. Now, the future that they're talking about is where citizens can even have the option of having a brain interface chip and be loaded into a rack. And they won't even have to exist in the physical world. Their bodies would be put in life extension technology, loaded in a rack for centuries or thousands of years. That's where we're headed. People say, oh no, that won't happen. I said, well, I'm sorry, but that hellish world is right around the corner. But it's dependent on humankind.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you stuck around and I hope you got a lot from that. I'm sort of just trying to offer some references like that video. The main body of that came from a 2008 interview series and stuff. So that's the sort of stuff that YouTube would link to you, alright? And line you up with stuff when you're watching stuff, right? So that's how awesome YouTube was. It would just be totally related to all those sort of things, and you could just go on a hunt, like go on an absolute tear with the truth and all that sort of stuff. But what I've done recently, in like the reason why I found Asha was I was going back to my roots sort of thing, and I was sensing stuff out that people had talked about what had occurred and what was occurring way back in that day sort of thing. And I didn't really have the context or the GPS of that, but I just had to go very broad and stuff. And obviously the internet and YouTube has changed a lot, and that things are a lot harder to get and that, but there's other video channels out there and stuff, and I'm not really going to be too into it. But say with what's happened, say the last 15 years, context of what unfolds is fascinating. And so people that make predictions and stuff and things that, you know, you don't have to say all or nothing, black and white. You just take components, like I say in the conscious Tetris. For me, I'm not aligned to any one or thing in particular. I just pick the pieces that my truth detector lights up to, and I just incorporate them, then I fit them into my algorithm, and it's like, yeah, interesting. So that completes a bit of a gap, but also my algorithm, it's organically self-sufficient in the way that I get pieces, and then I can self-actualize the answer, so to speak. And in all my videos, that's my main aim, is to offer data for you to calibrate to or dismiss or just hold in the background. So if I show you that discernment mechanics, so this is going to be very rich expansion and improvement of discernment mechanics, because there's been a lot of variables that haven't added up, right? And so with my experience and stuff, and then the privilege of interacting with people that are very aware, that help solidify and add more variables to get a better discernment and appreciation of everything going on. What I'm going to do is take all that pattern recognition and stuff. So in that videos, right, the reason why I included all those together is that Swedish guy is awesome, right? And there's a lot brewing in this world, right? There seems to be very much a consolidation, if I use that word, of things coming all together for the frackers, okay? And my attitude is there's been an urgency to get things done, and I've been primed to do that. And then there's this constant derailing, woe is me bullshit, put on pause. But then there's also the shit that's been going on in the background that has been the agenda. So what's been out in the face of it has been like a role, but the background is all aligned to all the frackers, alright? And so that's why I said my assumption mechanics were hacked, but it's a very advanced skill set to be able to do that to me and get away with it, alright? And as I said, over my left side, I saw like a Stargate puddle, alright? It just went whoop, and I was like, you're fucking busted, okay? And then that moment I felt something go into my shin. There's this episode of Star Trek Voyages, it's called Scientific Method. I think it's the 4th season and stuff, and long story short, there's this species that come into the ship. They're doing medical experiments on the crew, and they're in a different phase, alright? They're in a different dimension that can't be seen, okay? And they're doing all this frackery on the crew, and the crew are just falling apart, and shit's going on, and all sorts of different states. Well, no shit, it was exactly that, alright? Because the moment I worked out my codes being stolen, my sacred masculine codes, that dropped the shield, because I've seen this being there. It's like shimmering light and stuff, and it's been blamed on others, but I know exactly who it was, alright? And the moment it burst down, I felt this thing in my shin, all right? And one of the issues I've felt that I haven't been able to resolve is I could feel the needle go into my shin, and it was trying to, if you know what happens with bullet wounds, like back in the old days, I don't know what they are now, but they used to be lead, all right? So if you didn't remove the bullet, it would cause an infection, right? So it was like this very thin, like glass-like spike was like needle, like an acupuncture needle, was going into my outside left shin, and I could feel like this multi-dimensional infection. So if you imagine an infection, it's opening up the calf energy to allow infiltration. So it's on the left side, if you know the J-seal sort of stuff. So it's going in and all hacking the body, and I've got all these issues up my left side of my body and stuff. And but what if I don't show? I've got, instead of one, I've got like a whole range of spots there that they all became very itchy, right? And I generally have pretty good skin, right? I've always had sort of eczema, psoriasis sort of issues and stuff because I know the sensitivity there and all that sort of stuff, and I won't get into all these issues, but like allergic reactions to stuff and that. But what I'm saying is that left calf is from my perspective, has been a level of attack that's gone on. And say, you know, if I talk about, say if you've booked a session and stuff, I say as soon as you sort of invest and commit, then things can happen through time and stuff like that. So the reason why I've had to pull back after March and in April, I made my thing very defined, and I prevented the access of just pure pranic sessions, because the infinite sessions, in the second part where we do the infinite section, that's where we define each individual's universe of how they can interact with you, sort of thing. So if anything's been done, then we can go and take care of it, right, through all aspects of the universe and stuff. And so what I'm getting to about that region is, it felt like, say people through time were going to come to me, then they might also have that multi-dimensional infection in that region, if you get my drift, to be an open portal to frackery sort of shit. And so while I'm saying it's this one being, I don't think it's one being employing that as a aspect to hack people, because most people right now they're trying to develop their awareness, when these high-level beings that are the gatekeepers at 12D, all right? And that's probably a good way of describing them. They're there to prevent it, okay? So yeah, it's just an interesting... So say I've got 10 or 15 spots there, it's like they've all gone for it all at once, trying to get through to brute force and break down and get in and stuff, and perhaps they did, but I've had 2 or 3 days of real epic healing since, and I did pranic before this and I felt a lot of clearing. It's interesting, my throat was cleared and stuff when I was clearing my regions, because like say I'd feel my throat and I could feel the clearance on that region, okay? So that's where, you know, when I talk about it, like say your third eye, right? One thing is like, say when I feel doing, say, pranics, I can feel like under your foot, like under your right arch of your right foot, it might be going all the way up your body to block your third eye. So the masterful awareness of your body, of the frackers, let alone what they did in the Babylon massacre and stuff like that, okay? And before, it like wiping us and inserting all sorts of shit in us and making it free for all here for the takeover of Earth and that, because they needed our codes and stuff. So this is pretty cool. Like I suggested all you guys do the revocation and call your codes back with that with spot, like real energy. And it's interesting, I've worked out that, so a lot of these beings, they've lost their technology that they had of you, so they've had to go out and get more, and there might be this thing of, I'm going to free soul shards, but they're actually going into the genocides that they've done in the past to lay like Easter eggs for themselves to get back codes if they've been busted, if you get my drift. So I shared out an audio to quite a few about this Magi clearance with someone that's pretty epic out there. that I no doubt put on the radar, so sorry to you, okay? But all this has cleared up a lot, and we've revealed a lot, alright? And so this section will be an ally to the very aware, because the reason why I'm going to do it, and then I'll do the Don Bratto offer, alright? That's why I'm saying it's big chess move time, because as the Mozzies are loving me at the moment, it's big chess move time, because so if that section with just the reality control and the masterful programming and pattern recognition and maneuvering everyone into this whatever's going on, like the chaos is epic, right? So one variable going on is that Earth isn't happy of all the migration of people into the different regions and stuff. So if say we aren't there to guard it, then she's going to step in and clear shit out, alright? So yes, there are a lot of negative things happening, but then there's a lot of incarnation invaders being sprawled across the earth and stuff, and she's going to step in and do some stuff, right? So I know there's a few things going on, and the narrative, like if you go into this Swedish guy and you look at some of the lectures I've linked to down below, then you see the programs that have been going on for a long time, which I've sort of included clips in videos and stuff like that. So I'll leave that up for you to do your research with it based on the clips that I showed you in this, right? But so I'm going to get into the multi-dimensional sort of hijacking of the spiritual community and the high level beings and stuff and what goes on, alright? So if anyone's offering you protection, take it as they're going to use you and infiltrate you and control you and see you as their property, right? So you might want to revocation the shit out of that for all the violations that have gone on, right? And clear your crown chakra and clear chaos out of your life. So this section, I'm going to try and get to the point. So I might be quite basic and I might want to extrapolate it in the future and stuff, but the idea is to get you with that, what I've offered so far as like a foundation. But like the epically aware, I've always said, like the highly aware are the most targeted, alright? So I've had the enormous privilege of interacting with quite a few, and then they trust me. Say in me, I trust my sessions and stuff in my state, but what happens after I'm not really in control of, alright? And then it's been worked out that, say if I've been hacked, okay? So say if you've listened to the Emir to Infinity and Beyond, where he describes my ability to perceive and stuff and my healing modality. Like I have a screen up in front of me and I see a body and I'm isolated. And he offered my mechanics because it was a pure interaction with him then in late April, okay? So he described it. So I usually get people to lie down and I get the reference of them on a screen and I'm separate and I'm reading off the screen, alright? I do not go into you. If you've got a perception that something went into you, that was the infiltration, alright? Hacking it, alright? And then also people that have not had interactions with other people and given away their sovereignty, if you will, or have been hacked, then maybe after the sessions and stuff, something came in to mess with you and stuff. So this, all that data and stuff, I think a lot of you guys, like, you do trust me, but things haven't worked out, maybe. Especially after the February, like late February, Carlene came in and she justified going in and telling me she was rescuing me because she saw that I was going to get killed and all that. That was just bullshit cover. It was justification to hack me and derail me because things were brewing, okay? It's not true what she said. So yeah, like people that have come and seen me, they've given me actual pure feedback of things and stuff, and that's cool. Like I would rather the truth and have that as a reference and trying to people please me and stuff like that, because I've known my mechanics are right, but things haven't been where they should be, okay? So now I've worked that out, right, with all this shit, and it took a long time to work out, and that's why I've had to retreat and not interact with people and uncover a lot, because it might be related to one being, but it's all related from my perspective. Like, say some people that can tune in and see, it was like there's always been a connection back to Greedy King, if you get my drift, alright? So there's master puppeteers at play and all that sort of stuff, and the level of the game has been vastly more superior than what we've been playing. So we've had to up our game and reverse engineer, but we also have the authority in this reality versus the invaders. So only invaders would know that there's been an invasion, if you get my drift, okay? So I'm planting that because I've got in the Don Brato offer, we'll see where we go, alright? I might get hit too much and not do it, and yeah, triggering the frack out of everyone, alright? So I'm going to get into this after all that context, alright? To say, like I said, in that first part, I'm offering the reality and stuff, and using that 2008 interview, like the recent guy, the Swedish guy, that was a lecture that was just released recently. But what the other guy said, that back in 2003 it was already in place and it's already underway. And the Heart of Stone movie is very interesting because it gives you a visual representation of how that'll work. So I highly recommend that movie on Netflix, right? Just to see what's going on, because like they're talking about agencies and then there's another one above it and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go to the multi-dimensional sort of frackery and stuff here. So I've used this image in Incarnation War Part 6 where a lot of the highly aware were seeded, so to speak, alright? So I just want to offer that as a reference, okay? To say if there was always going to be a bubbling up of the spirituality in this time, right, that still got through all the shit that's gone up and where instincts have kicked in, there was going to need to be an opposition to quell that, because like I said, the highly aware are the most potent to actually change reality, and I feel that we are in the box seat for that. But I'm going to give you another level of the elaborateness to do the derailment and stuff, because we're right at the box seat from my perspective, and that's why I'm saying this is big chess move time, because it's going to be quite surprising, okay? So I'll just show you this again, because this is a bit of a metaphor with me, but everyone, right? This is what's been going on. The 12D gatekeepers have been smashing us and stuff, and that's where I've offered a lot of variables, and I've included them in sort of previous Galactic Special Forces recordings of what was going on and stuff, and interference and all that sort of stuff that was going on, alright? And the recalibration to a new energetic reality 5 and stuff. I did that without any interaction with anyone else, and what the releases after that, okay? But this is still what's been at play, okay? But I think we're right here, okay? To really let it rip. So I've shown this a couple of times, recent videos and stuff. So this is like, so there's players out there that are being sort of outed, and then there's others that are sort of getting away with it, alright? And they're blaming others for what they're doing, alright? So you think they're good when they're not, but the bottom structure is, in my opinion, they're all aligned. And what I've been brewing for like 6 months is going after the big behind the scenes sort of shit, right? So this big chess move time is going after that, alright? But it's not in a going after, it's actually, I'm going to reverse matrix my own sort of thing of what I've done, because perhaps the way my attitudes have been a pattern that I'm going to flip here, alright? But we're going to get to the reason why, okay? So just appreciate that. So there can be players, bad players, and good players in the perception that they're built up, but they're actually doing frackery behind the scenes, okay? So that's why I said employ the contrarian view of reverse everything that I've said to you and I've done to you. Just sense if that is the truth or not, but then do it to everyone else that you've interacted with. And just really feel that maybe the sympathetic resonance to the falsehood that I said in Echoes Part 3 might be still there, and perhaps like I showed you the consciousness Tetris, where you might have been good and then you get flipped and it's compromised again and you don't even know it, right? Because it's been so masterful. So if I just move on, So this is a new image, all right? So say if I relate it to that past one of sort of practitioners out there, all right? So imagine if you see the lines with the black dots, they're all clients, okay? And say if they're negatively aligned, I've done them in red, okay? Say if you're like just being a general person, you go through your journey and then you have an aha moment and then you become a practitioner even. So the bottom one is a metaphor of the journey, all right? You might go through ups and downs, compromise. You can sense that with me if you want, if you need to. Do a contrarian view sort of discernment of me. Go through it all right? But also do it with yourself to see that maybe you might think someone is bad when you're actually being hijacked and hacked to be polarized against them and stuff, or you might be accurate. There's all these different variables at play. But let's just relate it to clients, right? Say someone's very supported in the programming of the narrative, reality and stuff, so a lot of people are drawn to them, and that individual corrupts a lot of people, right? So say if you as a practitioner, you finally get going, right, and you get your aha moment, and you start doing good work, then you might be on the radar of the predictability, sort of the algorithms, like you've crossed the threshold to be a threat. So then what happens is there's this thing I call soul tourism, where people like to go between all the practitioners and get all their shit and perspectives and all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm offering is there's a whole nother level of the game going on right now, and this is to explain it. So if you've done that and been that, you know, there's times where things are good and times where things aren't good, and times where practitioners are good and times where practitioners aren't good, alright? And by me offering this to the reality, the highly aware out there in the background, perhaps I'm giving you the ammunition to see all this and derail all the frackery once and for all, if you get my drift. Or there's people I can do this stuff with, but I can't make it public, alright? And I've gotten this mechanics, and I feel there's a beachhead that we've got enough, right? And so the next thing that I'm going to do after all this, it's like I feel like, despite how it is, we've got the beachhead to unravel everything right now, right? And so that's where I can make this Don Bratto offer, because it's game over for certain aspects out there, right? So just imagine like all these black dots, and I'm not saying you are or whatever, just I'm trying to get the pattern, because most people are naive and they'll take on board everything, and then there's that kumbaya spirituality of believing all the light worker, light language, frackery sort of shit. When I'm talking crocodile, Dillygaff Dundee spirituality. I don't give a shit for all the crap out there. Like what's going on in the reality doesn't add up to that and the spirit kumbaya spirituality having any positive effect. Okay, if anything, it's contributing to it. Okay, so you imagine the top section is just like a new practitioner coming online, and then people go to them and then they compromise them. They don't even know it, right? So, and then they get compromised, there's a following, and then people follow them and all this sort of shit, alright? So just see that people have recommended me in my past when I've been perhaps hijacked and hacked and compromised, and then use it as a portal to go and access people that I get codes for, alright? And all this infrastructure has been accessing it. It's not just one individual, they're all on the same team. So this is just the one versus the good, and I'm going to extrapolate that. So the bottom is like the journey, if you get my drift. So you might go through good, bad, all that, but then ultimately, from my perspective, if you're aligned to the founder, guardian sort of stuff, it's only going to make you stronger, and experience is the key to wisdom, right? So just take that as a appreciation variable, because I'll show you the next one now, which will expand on this more. So this is like a one individual versus a new coming online practitioner and all that sort of stuff. This is a battleground, it is, and this is why a lot of you don't want to get in the game, because you sense all this and it doesn't add up. But if I offer this context, then it will be like, I get it now. But don't be looking for the wrong in people. Don't be looking for the compromise. See the good in the people still, Alright? Just appreciate this game is far more intricate than what we've appreciated, okay? So we'll keep moving on. So if I've told you about the 12D sort of thing, just imagine that's what's going on, alright? I've shown this many times. So it's all the gatekeepers of the 12D, okay? So I hope that helps. And now I'm going to show you a new one that I haven't shown before. So this gets into the web, right? So you imagine that one I showed with one individual and one person. So you imagine these are all related. These are all people, and these are all 1 degrees and 2 degrees. So you imagine that, let's say that's a master fracker in the middle, right? And so people that come to them, they mess up, they hijack and stuff, and there's no solution in society, so people just go along with it, and there's no reference. And then there's the whole sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, and all these other things are different practitioners that come online. And so if you remember what I said about the Last of Us, the mycelium sort of clip that I showed at the start, right? How there's like a network of the frackery behind the scenes, that it doesn't matter which practitioner it is, they're all aligned, if you get my drift, okay?
The last time we were here, they were still deep inside the buildings. Then I guess enough people came through looking for the QZ. We went inside seeking shelter. And that's how they get more and more of the city, bit by bit, year after year.
They're connected.
More than you know. The fungus also grows underground. Long fibers like wires, some of them stretching over a mile. You step on a patch of cordyceps in one place, and you can wake a dozen infected from somewhere else. Now they know where you are, now they come. You're not immune from being ripped apart. You understand? It's important. I'm trying to keep you alive.
So we're not going that way.
No.
What do we do then? Short way?
Did you guys see the moon landing on TV? Yeah, I can't believe it. It's so cool. Yeah, and you know what?
Excuse me,
I was talking to
Lisa.
Billy the other day. No way. He is so cute.
Hey, Lisa, I was wondering if you...
Ew! Gru touched Lisa! Gru touched Lisa! Ew! Lisa's got Grudies!
And so if you remember what I said about the Last of Us, the mycelium sort of clip that I showed at the start, right? How there's like a network of the frackery behind the scenes, that it doesn't matter which practitioner it is, they're all aligned, if you get my drift, okay? And so there might be good practitioners that come online that don't have the defense to actually even get it, let alone the context. And they don't have the metaphor or the awareness. Perhaps they do, right? And like I said, perhaps there's ones up here that are green. So let's say that green is clear and red is compromised, all right? So this is me trying to explain what I know has gone on in the past, but I haven't actually had the words or the context, and the recent times has helped that, because I know that this is no offense to you as a client or anything like that. You might be a full guardian and you've been mega targeted, and then you've actually been weaponized as like a suicide vet, multidimensional suicide vest to fuck up the guardian sort of practitioners and stuff, right? So this is another level of the warfare going on the pattern recognition, and this can fit into that stuff that I've included in those clips, because the spiritual community has definitely been a battleground, right, for awareness. But I just feel that this is still very masterful and there's no context for this. So that's why I said after the Emir, I worked out that what happens tomorrow if 100,000 people want a session, okay? In that break I had with him, it was like, it's actually the oversouls that are holding it back. Plus it's the lack of life force in people to be able to accept new data, alright? So the energy harvesting is massive. There's no context out there. All the internet is supporting the falsehood, alright? And anyone good, they get no interest. And then, yeah, say, my metaphor is everyone gets to be the Jack the Ripper, and they get away with it. But say if I dip my toe into the wrong, it's like, oh fuck. Thank goodness Andre did something to justify me not believing him, sort of thing. It's like the weight of the industry has been against, say, someone like me. And I'm just using me as an example. There's plenty of others out there, and that's why I've sort of retreated and just be a sovereign individual. That's why I talk about the Galactic Special Forces. You've got to be a master of your shit before you even think about that. If you're getting infiltrated and all that sort of shit, you're not up to it, let alone if you're actually like a damsel in distress playing, the false victim to lure someone in to sort of want to rescue them and all that sort of stuff when they're booby-trapped and all this sort of shit. So there's all these sort of mechanics that, from my perspective, that's the 10 years of wisdom of being in the battle, like battle strong sort of stuff. And I'm not saying I'm the best or anything like that. I love that people have more talents in certain realms that are better than me, but I'm also pretty good. Like, I will just work shit out. Like, that's where I turn like Ferris Bueller. I make everyone feel like Cameron's in their car. He's going to call me. He's going to work it out. He's going to work it out. So this is Cameron time for all you fuckers, alright? Busted. I've got it. So what I'm doing here is doing an investment to the highly aware, so you get this mechanics and you see what's going on, because once we know it, like, the problem is the context. Once we've got the context, solutions are generally pretty easy. So then you can see all this sort of stuff. And hopefully me, by investing this and taking the risk of speaking about this stuff when there's nothing else out there that comes close to this, that it's an investment in the potential for us all, alright? And this is why like I'm been brewing big chess moves, alright? Because I get solutions, if you get my drift, alright? And I've been in a holding pattern waiting for sort of people to get together, get their shit together and all that. And there's this consistent pattern of inability to master themselves, if you get my drift. So it's justified a holding pattern to, if I have a want to do it with people, if you get my drift, okay? And I'm just like you guys, like I long for like that Japanese samurai era of honor being the core of civilization and doing the right thing, and you don't have to worry about another being a scumbag, like falsehood, master of hypocrisy sort of shit, and being puppeted by main players sort of thing, but yeah, if you get my drift, it's about like that whole 300 trusting your man on your right to have your back sort of thing, rather than being the actual infiltrator working for Xerxes, alright? So we'll just leave this here. This video's been quite long, but if you get that, do you appreciate what's going on and all the infiltration and the lack of even energy hygiene, appreciation of the masterful game going on that, you know, it's just really interesting and stuff. Do you get my drift? So I'll move on, alright? So let's see how this goes, right? So I come to Don Bratto moment, right? And what I worked out was pretty cool. And I'm already feeling my crown a lot. Interesting. So I know a certain being out there has had his watchful eye over me for a very fucking long time. So I'm just going to sort of tune into Metatron, alright? Because the Don Bratto offer you can't refuse is that being himself, right? So if you've gone through, I've made an offer on my channel, on my website, the AshayanaDeane recordings relative to the Metatron Galactic history. And in my opinion, that 7 hours or whatever, I got more from the thousands and thousands in the Galactic historian sort of stuff, right? So, and I've talked all about that. So that recording, that set of recordings is on my channel to download and get an appreciation of. So I'm not going to really include a lot of videos related to that, but at the end I might include the Asher clip that I included recently about the big overview of the big mechanics of the Weezadak matrix and all that sort of stuff, because they're the invaders from my perspective, if you get my drift. And what happened to Metatron was there was an appreciation 250 billion years ago, give or take, right? It's been a long time, that Source itself decided to be a dick and insert frackery into himself to actually create distortion and all that sort of stuff to bring about the cause of the Phantom Matrix sort of stuff. So I'm assuming you've done the research into that material, and say if I don't release a video for a while, it might be a good time to really get a homework on that and listen to that and delve into that sort of group of audios there, alright? So I'm talking from an assumption that you know that, okay? So the big thing that sort of worked out in recent times was there is an invasion, right? And I've got other people out there that have been corrupted from the source of the invasion, not just one person, right? So these are people behind the scenes that have the level of talents to see all this stuff. So like I said, I was appealing to the highly aware to actually get this appreciation of the mechanics, because then we as a beachhead can actually resolve the mechanics on the high end behind the scenes to help with what I'm going to do. The Don Bratto, the offer, you can't refuse sort of thing, like gangster, galactic gangster, alright, guardian gangster, alright. So what was done from my perspective to Metatron was, and this is what I've learnt with a lot of the highly aware, is that through the ear, let's just say that they're getting information through the ear, there might be all these good sources, but a little corruption getting in that corrupts the whole thing. And like I said, the mechanics, like the conscious Tetris, it might flip one good into a bad that corrupts the whole algorithm and stuff to allow a crack in the dam, so to speak, for the falsehood to get in and be not appreciated and stuff. So the big thing that I appreciated over what I've said is, like, how the F do we not know that there was an invasion, okay? And that's been a masterful play of the whole shit that's going on, because then the invaders aren't having to accommodate the rules of the universe and laws of the universe, so they're an outsider that have had free reign to do all their shit, okay? So this is an appeal to Metatron, okay? Because from my perspective, the muscle play to hook him into all the shit that went on, right, was to get him to himself be convinced that Source did it to him, right, to justify the opening of the Wizard Act, to be pissed off with things, right, and have a blame attitude to Source for the consequence of his frackery, right, when it's not actually Source's fault. Source was hijacked by what I said, by these fracking masters that have an agenda to hijack our universe and use it as food and stuff, to convince Metatron to go down the path he went, to actually open up the portal to the Wizard Act, alright? So mate, 250 billion years, alright? You've been a fucking dick to us, alright? Because of that. Alright? So, as I said in this video, like, we've got the beachhead to convert the whole universe back right now. The people that I've got around me I trust, that have the talents, that if I really got organized and got them together, we could fix all this shit, alright? And you won't be a part of it, alright? Because you know that us Anunnaki cockroaches, you haven't been able to get rid of us. Like, we're freaking relentless and we're unsquashable, alright? So you know it. You've done everything you can in grinding us down and it still hasn't been enough. And now we're badass and we get it all. We've gotten what we've not meant to have gotten, alright? And so you see me doing this video as an offer to all of you guys that have the potential to actually contribute, to realize, like, this is the game that's been going on. The only way they've gotten away with it is being denying us the context of what's going on, and it's like, that's what's going on, alright? It's a game over. Like, once we know, it's like, I'm basically offering all you guys a big download, alright? To integrate that, to decrypt all the frackery and all that shit in you, okay? So Maddie, you big dick, well done. You fucked us over. Like, you've caused us all sorts of shit, alright? But you know you're at the end game now. You're at the peak of frackery and it's all going to be bad for you from here, alright? So my offer to you, mate, is take on board what I've offered and all of in the downloads of the frequency of what I offer. Process it and realize even you are redeemable, dude, alright? Even if you don't think you are. And all you need to do is make a step in a different direction. Right? And you know I've got the ability to sort of heal you and stuff like that. I feel you will heal yourself by knowing this. And I can assure you we will welcome you back into the fold. Okay? So I can feel a lot of processing going on. So why don't you just contemplate this? And a lot of people feel that they're unredeemable for what they've done, and I've just offered that anyone is redeemable. But I'm not going to fucking compromise my heart space for any of these frackers, alright? Like, I've gotten a revocation where people were trying to get me to compromise myself in an act of war when I didn't even know we're in war, alright? So what I'm doing is offering a big chess move here that will outplay all these frackers. And I think you will be the difference, mate, alright? So if you're done being a dick to us all for 250 billion years, maybe you can be a brother again, alright? And you can see who's done all the frackery to you, and it was fucking masterful. But maybe we can go and fucking give them shit in their own fucking realm after we get sorted here. And it's an offer, okay? You can do whatever you want. My offer is every great journey starts with one step, and you could take one step from that back into the fold, and you might be the variable that finishes this all off once and for all. So while you've been what you've been and all the shit you've done, and you're going to have to go through redemption, dude. Like, you're going to have to face a lot of the shit that you've done. Maybe you don't want to. A lot of species out there don't, alright? But I think you would be a loss to us all if we have to continue the path. We have to continue, but I have no qualms of taking you down. Okay? Alright? So my offer to you in this is, you go shock and awe on the falsehood and the invaders, right? You be loud about it, alright? And I've talked about the structures in place and the beings and all that sort of stuff. So how about we offer that to the algorithm of all the frackers, alright? Try and calculate him back on, okay? As I feel Muttley's going to hospital with his uncontrollable laughs. We need some laugh specialists for Muttley, because Dick Dastardly's are freaking out, alright? If you come back online. So if you want to make Muttley like almost death by laughter, it's simple. It's very simple and elegant, mate. You could be the difference. So we could crush all these frackers once and for all and restore the universe back to the way it was. And you'd be a part of it. And I'd be glad if you were there. So what I was brewing is that there's a lot of infrastructure in place with him there and stuff, and if he flips and comes back into the fold, then it doesn't matter if you guys see me as the answer of doing this or whatever. I don't care. The result is what all that matters, and when we get there, we get there, and whatever happens to get there is just data, alright? But when it matters, who is standing up, sort of thing. Do you get my drift? Because everything's sort of on the line right now, okay? So I will just impart that. Like I said, frickin' mate, go shock and awe on these frackers, alright? Give them a Iraq 2003 and be loud and let them know you're back in the game. Do you think that would be enjoyable? Do you think that would be fun? Alright? So I guess we'll see what happens, guys. Alright? But that's like big chess move time, alright? And I think that's a bit of a checkmate, alright? That's like taking out the bishop or a queen, or really flipping the game on its head. So all solutions are quite simple when you know what's going on, from my perspective. Who knows? Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I don't know what the fuck's going on. Maybe I'm totally hijacked and fucked up and all this sort of shit. But we'll see what happens, alright? Thanks for being here. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of your journey. This might be a bit long, and if this even gets out, I don't even know if I'll do it. But I just got how simple and elegant it could be, and we'd all sort of win. Alright? So I hope you get a lot from this, and hope you're going well, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey still, and I look forward to seeing what happens. Alright? So Don Bratto, with an offer too good to refuse, out. Cheers, guys. Until next time, Andre out. Hey, surprise. More brat for you, lucky you. Thanks for being here. I just thought I'd do this little insert and add on because this is the 19th. This is the Saturday, the day after I did that recording, and it's a bit earlier than what I normally do, but I've got things to do in my day and stuff. So what it turns out is we had to go and do GSF overnight, alright? Because I've been under some pretty heavy stuff for most of the week. and it wasn't easing up, and I had to do some stuff after that. I did that recording in my day yesterday. And so I reached out to someone and I kept what I did, like the cards close to my chest, if you will. And I just caught up with someone, like I was working on my video until 3:30 in the morning. And then I caught up with them because I got to a stage where I could sort of rest and let it go sort of thing and get back into it my day, because I'm aiming to release it the normal time that I sort of do it, give or take. And but there was things going on, and I just thought I'd get a double check and stuff. I could have cleared it myself, but I thought I'd just check. And I got them to sort of help me maybe 1 a.m. I just said, look, there's stuff going on, can you check? They took care of it, all right? And then I caught up with them quite late just to touch base and see what was going on with them, right? And so then I told them what I did. And as soon as I told them, they got triggered to perceive it and see what was going on. And the reason why I asked them, or got them involved, was just to double check if the message got through. And it was being blocked, being redirected and all sorts of shit. And then a big battle ensued. Because aspects out there aren't happy. Because Don Bratto's in the house, alright? Don Bratto, okay? And, yeah, so then there was a lot going on, efforts to prevent it. A fake Metatron came in, alright? So this is the thing about me, I'm not really engaging in the dream time at all. Obviously, if you're across me since early June, it's been pretty hectic, and since March, so if you see me out there or you think I'm there, really discern at a high level, because I'm absolutely not engaging on that level at all, alright? So yeah, it's been pretty tight in the way I and say Captain Marvel have been operating, because it's been pretty gnarly, and yeah, others as well. So I'm not really going to say too much. I'm going to be a bit vague, but so yeah, then a fake Metatron attempted to come through, because people like using fakes, alright, to hijack you and drop your guard, so to speak. And the moment you drop your guard, it's in, alright? And that hesitation and just not being on Star Trek Red Alert, right, all the time at the moment with your defense. So yeah, what happened is there was a big elemental sort of battle and stuff, and Earth is pissed. She is freaking pissed about this stuff. And eventually what happened is the message got through to Metatron, alright? And yeah, he was very happy and grateful, and he's accepted, alright? So instantly it was shock and awe, but I just said, like, go large and shock and awe, alright? So put that in your algorithms, guys. Put that variable in your algorithms. So yeah, and Earth was very, very, like, reached out to him and welcomed him and stuff, and it was, yeah, and then a lot of variables out there sort of came in to the reality, and yeah, so the offer was accepted, alright? That's just my perspective. You need to discern this, and there's efforts to hijack and blow back to sort of positive things, all that sort of stuff, but yeah, this is, like I said, big chess move time. And the key is, alright, I'm going to show an image. This is the context image, and I've showed it many times, but the key with anyone's decision is if you give them the context. From my perspective, it's not about intelligence. It's about the data and the reference points in order to plot a course, right? So to make choices, it's all about having intelligence and the best information to chart that course, if I use that language, right? So what if a being at that level has never been given the information and bullshit's been inserted, like the red, alright? Do you get my drift? And it's all lies and falsehood, and it uses emotions against you, sort of thing, right? Because emotions have a lot of life force and potency to push through stuff, alright? They're a technology, okay? So just in that download I offered, it was all the context to make a good decision. It was like simple, alright? So interesting, hey, okay? So just process all this and see what happens, alright? So just this little short add-on to this video and stuff, and I hope this finds you well, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I would, just because I say this, I wouldn't try and tune into anything or all that. It's pretty hectic out there and all that, alright? So it's just a warning. Keep in your self-mastery and keep progressing in your journey and develop and be relentless, guys, alright? So, Don Brato in the house. And I'm joking about being a godfather sort of thing, alright? But I don't do protection, okay? You gotta protect yourself. You gotta learn it. You gotta learn to, like a foal, learn to walk after a birth and stuff like that, because wanting to be codependent on another is a vulnerability, alright? So if anything like me is offering protection, it's probably not me, okay? It's like, do it yourself. Like, you want to be in the game, like, you gotta learn how to take care of it, okay? So I thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. We'll see what happens, guys. So, Don Brato out.
The beginnings of understanding shadow body have to do with understanding the black hole system and the universal shadow body. And quite simply, remember how we talked about the axis, the two axes that the phantom matrix and the Wesedat matrix interface with our universal Stargate system. We've shown how that works on this part of the graph up here. I'm flipping my own graphs now, so pardon me. As is busy. We have the phantom matrix coming down this way in its gate system, and the Wesedat matrix coming down this way in its gate system, and the 666 gate configuration up here, which allows the link of the Arimathea wormhole to transmit frequency all the way down through our system, which is basically an invasion line into our system. This little part of the diagram over here, we're going to get into more on Sunday when we get into the anatomy of the beast, the universal beast, and start to see this machine and what it's composed of and basically what it's creating. This shows the interface like this does here. This shows something called the black cube matrix, which is what they're trying to form. The Metatronic matrix is formed on forcing together two templates from two completely different universal vecas and creating a false template out of them by destroying part of each one and then electromagnetically forcing the remaining pieces, the other two together, to create an anomaly. Their whole system is built on this anomaly. Now, this is back to the Cosmic Akasha map, Akasha Ea map. This is up at the high level. Down here, this little tiny one, we're here, right? This is where our Vecca is, way down in here. The Wesedat matrix, black hole system, is way over here. It's a completely different quadrant and corridor and spectra. It's not even, it's like nowhere, it doesn't belong in our system. In other words, it never belonged connected to our system. What that looks like in terms of the universal radial bodies is kind of like this, where this would be their radial body on this level, and this one would be ours on this level. This is the little part of theirs that had fallen. I mean, this is not a whole, their whole system didn't fall, just this little part did. Their little part of their Vecca system fell. So it's only part of their Vecca universe that's fallen. It's not like their Akasha fell or anything like that. But they managed to be able to plug in a frequency bridge, force a frequency bridge between their fallen matrix and the part of our matrix over here that had started to fall, the phantom matrix, but it still could have been because its template was just reversed. If it's just reversed, you can fix it. You can re-reverse it and reverse mutate it back to its natural state. But if it's half crushed and squashed into another template, the remaining parts that used to belong to it aren't there anymore, and the foreign parts are like a computer program that won't fit in your home matrix. So this is the difference between the phantom and theirs. The phantom matrix could have been reintegrated. It was like a little radio body that fell out of our bigger universal radio body, and it could have been brought back in. But they interfaced with into our matrix through this wormhole system. They came up in here. They came up in through. Let's see. This actually works, but I'm missing a part of this. This comes. Let me see. There's an angle that comes in here. Oh, something got changed on this diagram. This used to come down this way. Anyway, what this looks like is it shows it going into our system, then coming back into phantom. It actually comes into phantom first. This should go down to the center point, comes through phantom, and then loops into our system. And it creates this bridge, this wormhole bridge to their system. What that looks like on the dimensional scales, this graph down here, this graph becomes significant because you will see how this applies to your anatomy when we get into tomorrow's work on the net that's in your field and on the shadow body. But this is on the universal level. We're only seeing two densities here, dimension 1, 2, 3, so that's density 1. There's a density 1 void, and the dimensions 4, 5, and 6. That's density 2. That's the density 2 void. You'd have density 3 and density 4 and density 5 up here. Yes? Move this up? Okay, sure. All right. That better for the people back there? Okay, great. So what this is basically showing is these capsules here would be the radial bodies surrounding each harmonic universe in one density. This is the normal side, how it would normally appear to be. You would have a radial body. You'd have the three harmonic universe Huva bodies, which are the smaller light sound bodies. Then around that, you would have something called the Eros field. You would have the Miage field. You'd have the Trion field, and then the Rayon field. That's the Trion-Miage field that some of the work is talking about. Trion refers to light, but it's particular particles that are called Trion units. And Miage refers to sound units called Mijons. All right? And Rayon units are what make up the Manu void field that's around the radial body capsules. So these are the structure of the natural radial body would be over here. I believe it's on this side. Yeah, with the diagram. What the mutations of the Metatronic implants in our planetary and universal grids have done is they've created distortions in the levels of the radial body. They've reversed part of the Trion-Miage field, where instead of the light being on the outside and the sound being on the inside, which means the transmitting on the outside and the contracting on the inside, they've reversed it. So you have the sound body on the outside and the light body on the inside. It means the outside of the radial body field, instead of transmitting energy out into the unified field, actually sucks energy. It actually draws it in. It also creates what's called an electrostatic net of frequency. It's like when you put two ends of a magnet together, if they both have the positive electrical charge, they push each other away, or if they both have the negative electrical charge, they'll push each other away. The natural flow of the radial bodies is electrical-magnetic, 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 where the energy can circulate back and forth. What this field has done, this net field, is create areas in the radial body field that electrical hits a positive and negative hits a negative, so it creates distortion, and it creates a stasis field or a static field. These static fields manifest as this net, this kind of pokey-looking thing here in the radial body. And this is on the universal level, but it's also on the personal level. This is the static field. It literally blocks the communication lines between the densities, which are the flow lines of the natural energies between the densities. Now, 2/3 of the universal radial body has undergone this reversal, all right, this net problem. That means 2/3 of our bodies have also gone through that. So there's only 1/3 of the natural pattern left. The flame body activations will go through, and that the universe is going to go through, will literally begin the process of restoring the natural Trion-Miage field, where you have the light emanating on the outside and the sound on the inside, and the natural electromagnetic relationships. It will get rid of the nets. There's several layers of net that block the emotional level, the D2 from the D3, the D3 from the D4. This is why we have such a hard time with our consciousness here. Now, we pick up this pattern of our auric fields just from being incarnate in the system down here. It means that our connection to our emotional body goes subconscious. So our emotions just seem to have a life of their own, and they come up as impulses, and you're not quite sure where they're coming from or who's attached to them. It's literally created barriers between levels of consciousness that are supposed to be open to each other and communicate with each other. In terms of the universal systems, it's created blockages between the flows of energy and stargates. That's why the Halls of the Mente interface system had to be put in to open little conduits so the system could still work until it could be repaired. When we come over here, this is the phantom level. This would be the phantom matrix part. All right? That would be that little part that fell from our system. That phantom matrix part also has the reversals of the radial bodies, but the radial bodies are completely reversed there, but they're not fully pulled in to what's called the base 8 code. The base 8 code is 8 subfrequency bands per dimension, and they run in reverse mathematical order. It's not a natural configuration. There is no base 8 system except for the Wiesadek matrix. So the phantom is in the process of becoming what's called Wiesadect or Metatronic. They're in the process of trying to get rid of the 12 subfrequency bands and make them into 8 and then reverse them. It's a part of, there is a phantom Earth, there are all of the stargates. We have a phantom equivalent at this point. This is part of this beast mechanism, and it was literally billions of years in the making. This is not new in terms of linear time and in terms of Earth counting of linear time from the perspective of Earth. It would have been billions of years in the making. So we are at the final stage of the beast being made, where it can actually be activated fully now. And what full activation of the beast is intended to do is to take this reality system, flip it completely into this, and to merge it with this, and then pull them both into the black hole system. Over here is a system that would represent the black hole system. These things here, there would be 4 of them, but only 2 are showing. There's 2 more going up in the other 2 densities above this. These are known as the black hearts of Metatron implants, the 4 black hearts of Metatron, 4 black hearts of the beast. There are 2 other implants, one called the Avalon seal and one called the 666 Apollyon sign of the beast seal, which is the Metatronic seed atom. Now, the seed atom is literally an atomic structure created on the base 8 system that was fused into our system that has been implanted here and has literally mutated the heck out of our natural atomic structure. It's not just our bodies and plant bodies and things that are having problems. It's the literal structure of our atoms themselves that have been twisted by this base 8 interface system. What it also means, now this is them over in their system, over here. In the Wiesadek system, it actually runs in reverse order and back and if you want to look at the Cathara grids, for instance, our system would have its natural, where you'd have gate 1, gate 2, gate 3 over here, which is on the right side. Gate 4 would be on the left side. If you were laying on the Cathara grid, that's how the Cathara grid is in your body. The phantom matrix is reversed left to right. All right, so actually you'd have 3 over here and 4 over here and 6 over here and 7 over there. This one is reversed left to right and turned upside down, where we have 12, they don't even have 12. Their highest is 11.5, and that would be on this end compared to ours, like if you stood them next to each other. That would be this system over here. There's a dimensional interface. They actually interface through the void spaces. All right, that's the radial body Rheon field level, the outer field, on each of the dimensions. Now, this would be our dimensional scale running this way. D1 through 6 is shown. Here you'd have phantom dimensions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here you have Wiesadek dimensions, 11, 10, 9. And then the void space is offsetted, so their void connects to phantom phantom D4, and their D9 connects to the void in the natural density 1 void in phantom. And then that connects over through us in the same way, because we're on the same base scale as the phantom is. Going all the way up to D11.5 on our scale, they have this construct. And their numbers, if they're running backward, their lower bodies would be up connecting to our higher bodies, trying to pull energy from our higher bodies. Now, this is on a universal level, and literally our universal Vecca is having this problem. Their systems are created on what is called the light body system, where they don't have the amount of the Miage field They don't have an intrinsic inside Miage field, which is the Meson units that are the base sound fields. They wear that on the outside as the contracting force that enables them to suck energy from the other systems. They are in what's called stasis, where they don't have any natural openings between their densities. Like here, normally, if it wasn't for this net field in here, there's a tube of energy that progressively opens when, this is how your body ascends too, where the frequencies from one set of harmonics or one harmonic universe float into another, and then these can flow back out. So you have the circulation from source, from source, then going back into source again. They don't have that ability to do that, and their systems are actually phase locked. It creates an unnatural set of galaxies, planets, and stars that are very fixed, and they don't have the ability to do an ascension. They can't even ascend within their own spaces. So they have a fragmented identity. They have little parts of themselves running around in what would be their lower dimensional scale, and then they have the souls, and then they have the oversouls, and then they have a part of the dark avatars, and they go up to like D11.5. That's where you get the D11.5 dark avatars. So I just wanted to point out where they are, particularly in relation to us, to show that they don't even belong in our, fused to our matrix in the first place. This was them exercising their right of free will choice and using it in opposite expression of divine will. And even though Source doesn't create that or endorse it on purpose, Source allows it within reason. Now, we might think this is way out of reason already. But this, from the perspective of being at one with God, is not that horrible to fix. Okay? The system, the natural divine blueprint system, was built on the idea, the intention of free will, love, and eternal life, which meant imbued within it, in its very mechanical structure, like the structure of how all of these parts of the system work together, was the impetus for energy will balance itself if it gets too far out of balance. This is what they're facing in the choices that they made. What the system will do, the matrix system will do now, because they have accreted to the, they have mutated their templates to the point where they can't go back into a natural healing process. Their only natural healing process is fragmentation, and then going back in to where they came from, but in pieces rather than as whole conscious beings with memory. So they'll lose their memory matrix, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea when you think about it. If I had a memory matrix like that, I think I'd want to lose it too. But of course, they're very proud of their memory matrix. But anyway, I just wanted to show you with the black hole systems what we're dealing with, because tomorrow we're going to see a bunch of diagrams that look like this that go with your body and show you where the shadow body is and what it's supposed to look like and where the astral body is and all sorts of things. You'll find out where that little thing is too. It's like everybody knows you got one, but who knows where it is? Right? I mean, it's that thing that goes flying out at night once in a while and you find it hanging on the ceiling, and but you don't know how it got there. All right, so we'll understand about that tomorrow too, but I just want to show you these things. Now, these little things here are feeder tubes. They actually go both ways. It's the implants in our systems that allow the energy to circulate through, but they can actually feed energy from our systems on the universal level through the void spaces that connect into the implants here, through the implants that are in phantom, and then directly into their matrix. This is also how they can do possession. Remember, consciousness is energy. These are open energy feeding tubes. They can pull and they can also push. So when we see things of possession, of people being possessed in things, it is a real phenomena. What they do is they move their consciousness from here and they push it as far as they can into the template, through the shadow, and into as much of the natural template as they can. They can take over bodies. The more reversals or more miasmic imprint, reversal imprint in the shields on this side, the more susceptible a person is to possession and to being manipulated and impulsed by the ones from the Wisdom Matrix. Now, we don't call them the evil ones, because technically evil is just lives spelled backwards, which kind of like, I guess they are in that context. They're not really living in the natural sense of what being alive in the eternal life system means. They are very messed up. It's like the inmates are running the asylum over there, and it's going to stay that way there, because that was their choice, and at this point we can't bring them back out of the asylum. So I just wanted you to see where the connections were here. Now we'll get to something more fun.
lemon in December, heading for the city lights. 975, we're sharing each other, nearer than farther. The scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, pulsating in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can drive a little adventure, love in the summer, follow the sun tonight, reminiscing of the times of life. For each every other, the feeling is stronger. Shock hit 11, got lost in your eyes. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now? Can you remember in human eyes? It was to where we'd energize, lie in the sand and visualize like it's 75 again. We are the people that rule the world, pulsating in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can drive. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now? Everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. I know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be my leader now?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.